All right, so the main topic of tonight is the idea of stewardship, okay, which is the name of the group study. And I'm going to have Raylan read the parable of the talents in Matthew 25, and then we'll go from there, okay?
So, parable of the 3 servants?
Yes.
Okay. Again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. He then left on his trip. The servant who received the 5 bags of silver began to invest the money and earned 5 more. The servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. But the servant who received the 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. After a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how they had used this money. The servant to whom he had entrusted the 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more and said, "Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more." The master was full of praise. "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together." The servant who had received the 2 bags of silver came forward and said, "Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 2 more." The master said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together." Then the servant with 1 bag of silver came and said, "Master, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here's your money back." But the master replied, "You wicked and lazy servant, if you knew I harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have gotten some interest on it." Then he ordered, "Take the money from the servant and give it to the one with the 10 bags of silver. To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and what they have in abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. Now throw this useless servant into outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth."
Okay, so is this Master Jesus? It sounds a little bit off.
Yeah, so let me explain. Because a couple of you mentioned, like, what's the problem? Like, the master just told him to take care of the money. He didn't specify, go invest this, make a profit off of this. And the understanding of, like, the relationship between master and servant, the understanding would have been that the master wanted something to be done with his money. Does that make sense? There would be no other reason for him to leave money with these men. Like, if the master just wanted the money to stay as it was, he would have just kept it with him, right? And so the idea is, I've given you this, now do something with it, okay? And this is a parable. Jesus taught in stories most of the time. And so it's a reflection of, yes, the Lord would be the master, and we would be kind of like the servants with the talents. Does anybody know what a talent is?
Yeah.
Something that you're the best.
Well, in this story.
It's like a coin.
Yeah, so specifically in the parable, a talent is an amount of money, okay? Yeah. No. Just leave it. So the understanding, however, in the metaphor, the idea of this being the Lord with us is that, because the Lord doesn't, well, actually, yeah.
It's like the Lord giving us something, and then we're supposed to go out and do like more with it. Like,
Yes.
Okay, we're not. She was reading that. I was thinking about like how Jesus sent out the disciples, and they were the idea of them to like create more people that will follow Jesus.
Yeah.
So like he gave them only a few things, and then told them to do something with them. You know? And then they did something bigger than he expected them to. Well, he knew they were going to, but he asked them. He gave them something little and expected something bigger.
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. So this can be looked at as money, but it can also be looked at as other things. So the whole idea of tonight is that we are stewards of God, and a steward or stewardship is literally just somebody who is managing somebody else's property. Okay, so in this story, it was money. So a steward is somebody who manages somebody else's property. And this idea that we are stewards of God is that, number one, we can look at this monetarily, that God blesses us with money, and then we're to use that money for his kingdom, right? But it could also be an ability, right? A literal talent, something that you're good at. I would say that you are a steward of your testimony, right? Like once you leave here, you have the ability to use your testimony for good or to stay silent. And so there's lots of different things that the Lord gifts us with or gives to us. And the theme of the parable, the big question is, what are you doing with what you've been given? Right? What the Lord has given you something. At some point in your life, it will be money. Right now, each of you has something that the Lord has given to you, gifted to you. And you're either using it for his kingdom or you're burying it. Does that make sense? And I think depending on where you're at and what the gift is that you've been given, like you heard it in the parable, the man buried it because he was afraid. He said, I was afraid of losing this. I was afraid of messing up. And so I just freaked out and dug a hole and put it in there, right? And we can do that with, like, let's say your gift is dance, but you have terrible stage fright. And so the Lord has gifted you with this. Like Layla, right? Layla danced for the Lord. What if Layla knew that she had that gift, but she never used it? She was just terrified and hid it and didn't show it to anybody, right? She's burying that gift that the Lord has given her. And here's another thing too, is that at any point while that master was away, did those servants actually own his money? No, they were just holding it for him, right? And in the same way, anything that you have, James says every good and perfect gift comes from God. Are you actually the owner of that, or has it been given to you by the Lord? Right. And so that is part of stewardship, is the understanding that this did not start with me. This did not originate from me. I'm not the owner of this. I'm merely managing this for the Lord. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And so this says, we are merely stewards of God's property while we are on earth. He can choose to entrust us with as much or as little as he desires, but in no case will we ever take ownership. That's good. Okay, so what's the theme of the parable of the talents?
Money.
No, what's the theme? Yes, Delicia?
I have this somewhere. Wait, the thing meaning like we are stewards of God? Is that the thing?
Yeah, but what does that mean? Like
Steward?
Yeah.
I don't know if I got this correct, but it is like someone who manages someone or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so the big question is, what are you doing with what you've been given? You've been given something, what are you doing with it? You are either taking it and using it for the kingdom of God, or you're burying it. And everybody knows that we are talking about money, but we're also talking about other things. Yeah. Okay, so then we see, this is connected to another idea, because at the end of the parable, God says, to he who has been given and handled it well, more will be given to you, right? So we have this picture of the Lord desiring to bless us, desiring to give us good things. Does that confuse anybody based off of what we talked about yesterday? Like, does that sound like it contradicts? Like, being wealthy might not be the greatest thing in the world, but God desires to bless us with more. I want to, yes.
No, not to me, because wealth and blessings are different, and God wants us to be wealthy, but a biblical wealthy, not earthly wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where he's trying to elaborate a little bit more on, is he wants to bless us, but with the bless us the kingdom of heaven and things of heaven, then bless us with riches on earth.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Can somebody read Luke 16:11?
Yeah.
You have your Bible?
I
Oh,
think
you have a question, go ahead.
It's like, so it's like what I said yesterday, like my dad said, like, we're not wealthy, we're blessed.
Yeah.
Cause,
Yeah.
Cause, like, without God, I don't think people Jesus, but you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. Like, without God, we truly wouldn't be wealthy at all. And, yeah. So we're all blessed.
Yes. Yeah. And here's the thing too. Notice that this is something that we do as well. We compare what the Lord has given us to what somebody else has given us. So the problem, I think, the first time that I read the parable of the talents, I expected it to be like a problem between like, oh, he was given 5, he was given 2, he was given 1. Like, there's going to be all this jealousy. That was not the problem. The problem wasn't you were given a little baby amount and you were given 5. If the guy that had only received 1 had doubled it like the others, he would have been just as faithful as the one that had 5. It wasn't about how much they had. It was about what they did with it. And so that's important for us to keep in mind too, because it can be really easy to say like, well, the Lord hasn't given me enough to be able to do all these other things that other people are doing. And it's like, no. You can do with what you have been given. And it doesn't have to be the same as somebody else. Okay, go ahead, Glenn.
11 through what?
Luke 16:11, just verse 11.
Oh, okay. And if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven?
That
Took me seconds.
steps on your toes. Read it one more time loudly.
And if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven?
Right. So if you are unable to manage your money properly, what makes you think the Lord is going to bless you with? Does that make sense? Like, there's undeniably a connection between how we steward our money and the Lord blessing us with other things.
This for,
Yes.
can I say it one more time? It's so good.
Sure.
Okay. And if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven?
That's
Yay!
good. Jesus himself said that because that's in Luke. Okay. I am going to read this because I love this. This is about the concept of stewardship. And it's so good. So he says, I love to travel more so than most people. When I would go to a hotel room, I would always crank the air down low and leave the lights on. I figured that it wasn't on me and I was going to pay a fixed bill no matter what. So y'all see he's increasing the air conditioning bill and increasing the light bill. Y'all track that's what's happening. Then I went through a biblical worldview course that taught me everything belongs to God. Now, if I believe all things are his, then when I leave the hotel room, I'm going to turn the air up to a reasonable setting and I'm going to turn off all the lights. What you do with someone else's resources shows what you really believe. For example, you get that money from your company and decide to spend it a little bit differently than you would if it were your own money. You think, might as well, I'm getting $100 per day. But what if you thought, how can I be a good steward of all resources? This is a different mindset. If we believe all resources are God's, it shifts our values and shifts the way we spend. So again, those 3 servants, that money never actually belonged to them. They weren't the owners of it. And in the same way, literally any money that you make on this earth does not belong to you. You are stewarding resources that the Lord has blessed you with. Go ahead.
Can you reread that line that says like what you do with someone else's?
Yeah.
belongs
What
to
you
them?
do with someone else's resources shows what you really believe. Okay. And then I love this. This is so good. He says, you are not a container for God to store money in. You are a conduit to get it where it needs to go. You are not a pail for him to put his coins in. You are a pipe for him to funnel his resources to where he wants them to land. So does everybody know what a conduit is? Okay, so a container would just catch stuff and then it would stay in the container, right? So he compares that to a pail. A conduit is something that gets to you and then you move it on to something else. So he says you're supposed to be like a pipe. A pipe keeps going and leads to something else, right? The sinks in our bathroom don't stop at the bottom of the floor, right? They keep going and eventually water gets to the ocean and all that type of stuff, right? And so that's what we're supposed to be with our money. We're supposed to say, Lord, thank you for this paycheck. What should I do with my money? Where should I be investing it? How should I be spending it? And I'm so excited to talk about tithing later in the week because it's really exciting. But, yeah, go ahead.
Is tithing when you get back to the church?
Yeah. I'm so excited to talk about that. I love that concept. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, you remember that letter that I read, about that my grandma wrote, like, how the Lord, like, brought us into this world, like, not to just, like, have us, like, standing on, like, that one, like, whatever it's called, like, a line or something, and he, like, you remember what I'm talking about? I kind of forget what it's called, but, I don't know, like, that kind of just, reminded me of it, because she was explaining how, like, the Lord wants you to minister to other people. Like, he brought you into this world for you to share his word, not for you to just, like, kind of just do what you want, and kind of, like, even if you have the word, not to just, like, hold on to it, but to, like, you know, I don't know, that kind of reminded me of it. I kind of forget.
That's good. Okay, so I have a question for you to think about, and this is the last thing we'll talk about, and it leads to my brain pocket. What?
Nothing. Sorry.
What?
She just looked at me weird.
So we've talked a lot about how God desires for us to be conduits and not containers, and how we're stewards. The money doesn't actually belong to us. So somebody explain that to me. If the money doesn't belong to us, where on earth does stuff that we want and desire fit into that, or how does it fit into it? Yeah. Go ahead, Mom.
It's like I feel like if we want something, he doesn't have a problem with us wanting something. He just has a problem with us feasting on what we want. Like I feel like if I really wanted Katie's shoes, right? But I know I'm not supposed to have Katie's shoes.
Yeah.
And me feasting on Katie's shoes would mean me taking them from Katie. And so that's my want, but God doesn't want me to want that way. You know?
Yeah.
Also, I feel like God wouldn't put us on this earth, like, knowing that there's, like, things that are attractive. Like, obviously, we can't go ballistic about it, and it's still, like, because as Christians, like, what we desire is what God will is God's desires. And granted, God's not gonna want, like, a pair of shoes, or that seems to be a big topic, is shoes. But, like, there's nothing wrong with wanting a pair of shoes if we're stewarding our money,
Right.
and we save up for that pair, and it doesn't affect, like, it won't put us into debt,
Right.
or anything like that. I
Yeah.
think that's
Literally all over the Bible. And I want to be so careful when I talk about this, because this type of stuff gets taken out of context all the time.
with the heart's desires and
All the time. But in Psalm 145, he says, "He fulfills the desires of those who fear him. He hears their cry and saves them." So again, somebody could read that and be like, "Oh, he fulfills my desires. Lord, do you see that motorcycle or that Jeep or that whatever?" And we need to be careful to not treat this transactionally, right? Like, even the verse that says, "Delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart." We can read that and say, "Ooh, if I delight myself in the Lord, then he'll give me stuff." I really think that you delight yourself in the Lord, he becomes your greatest desire, right? But my brain pocket, well, go ahead before because this is
I was just like, real quick. I think where you're going with that, I feel like something that's kind of remind is, like, you know how we were talking about how that it can be taken out of context. I feel like another verse that can be taken out of context. Like, it also kind of just depends on, like, where a person stands with that. But the verse, I forget where it's at, but you know the verse, it's like, "Seek and you will find." Like, I feel like people can take that out of context so much.
Yeah.
Because they kind of have, like, greedy hearts and stuff, and
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, if I seek this, you'll find this." And I'm like, no, you have to seek the Lord.
I think that meant, like, our salvation when you pray.
Seek and you will find the Lord, not and he will answer.
Yeah. And I think that this is, quickly.
Well, what's the Bible verse? Turn it around.
Which one? That I'm doing. I'll tell you in a second.
145.
Well, I just read Psalm 145, but so I think that this is just the Lord's heart, okay? Because all of this is true, and yet what is the motivating force behind everything that God does?
Your heart.
No.
Wait,
What-
your
No, what is the motivating force behind everything that God does?
For your heaven.
no, a relationship.
His what for us?
It's love.
His love for us, right? And so all of these things are true, and yet how many of you know that you've received something from the Lord just because,
Yeah.
right? And I want you to look at it in relation to your parents. Your parents' purpose in life is not to give you things, but don't they do it every now and then just because they love you?
Yeah.
Right? That's a reflection of love. And the Lord uses the metaphor of a dad in Matthew 7, and this is my brain pocket of the day. It says, which of you, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? And it's funny that we brought up shoes, because I was going to tell, which all of y'all know this, but the thing that comes to my mind is the Converse that Miss Chelsea got me for Christmas. Like,
You're welcome.
I don't need Converse, right? Like, wait, listen. I don't, right? That's not a need. Like, the Lord, we think about that verse in Philippians 4:19, the Lord will supply all the things that you need. That was not a need. I did not need that. But does the Lord delight in me? Absolutely. Did the Lord love that I received that as a good gift from him? Absolutely. Does that make sense? And so these things are all held in tension with, we don't serve an impersonal dictator God. We serve a God who is a father and delights in giving you good things. What?
Was that one pocket?
And so, but here's the thing too, is the Lord is not going to shower blessings on somebody who's being foolish with what he's given them already. Does that make sense? So if the Lord gifted me with something and then I was foolish with it, he's probably not sitting on the edge of his seat getting ready to gift me again. Does that make sense? And so, I don't know. I just think that that's important to keep in mind, that in all this conversation, a good parent still every now and then is like, let me gift my kid with something. You know what I mean?